I'm making this video to warn anyone thinking of marrying a Brazilian, be very, very careful. So I'm Swedish and my wife is Brazilian, and in this video I want to share with you the dangers of marrying a Brazilian, which include cultural shocks, emotional roller coaster, jealousy, no peace and quiet, strange food, PDA, problems with a family, and many others. So let's have a look at these. And let's start with the lack of peace and quiet in the house. So Brazilians in general can be pretty loud, even if it's just a conversation between two people. And sometimes to try and get them to speak a bit quieter, say to them, we're not in a crowded restaurant here, it's just the two of us, but usually it doesn't work. And in addition to talking really loudly, they also use a lot of hand gestures. So you got hand gestures like this, which means I don't really care, and this one here, which means hurry up, and many, many others. And I'm slowly understanding what they mean, but I still get confused on many occasions. But the lack of peace quiet isn't just from the loud conversations, it's also from the constant WhatsApp voice messages. I think this is a general thing here in Brazil, that people like to send voice messages rather than typing out the messages on WhatsApp. And these messages can be really long, several minutes and lots of them. And for someone trying to relax and have a bit of peace and quiet at home, this can be very disturbing. And then finally, when your spouse isn't talking loudly to you or recording lots of WhatsApp voice messages, then it's very common in Brazil for them to switch on the TV, a podcast or some music or something in order for the house not to be totally silent. But I personally think silence is a positive thing. And so constantly having this noise from TV or music can really make it difficult to relax or to focus on something. Okay, then the second danger of marrying a Brazilian wife is the emotional roller coaster. So I think in general Brazilians are very happy and positive about life. They're also very friendly and easy to talk to. So for example, if you ask a Brazilian how they are, they usually reply going, "Oh, I'm really good," or something similar like that. And that's quite a big contrast to many European cultures. You ask them how they are, they usually go, "Oh, I'm okay, not too bad," or something like that, which is a lot less positive. So I think this is a positive thing about Brazilians, but these feelings of happiness and positivity, they can just change like that. And then another emotion takes over. Sometimes it's anger. They can become very animated and expressive. And a lot of times they like to pick up flip-flops and threaten with flip-flops, which is a new one for me, which you definitely don't do in Sweden. And a lot of times you don't know what you've done wrong. But my advice to anyone marrying a Brazilian, just apologize even if you don't know what you've done wrong. And then another common emotion is sadness. And my experience is definitely that Brazilian women cry a fair bit. Definitely a lot more than what they do in Sweden. Because in Sweden I'm used to people only crying when it's something very serious. And so I was very shocked to see all of this crying. But then I gradually realized that crying here doesn't really mean that something very bad or serious has happened. And sometimes it's just because there's a sad scene in a novella, in a soap opera or something. And now I'm kind of used to it. And so this was quite a big cultural shock for me. Because we Swedes are pretty reserved, like to bottle it up rather than to show our emotions. But now I kind of think that the Brazilian way of showing the emotions is probably healthier. Okay, and the third danger of marrying a Brazilian wife is the constant show of affection. So in Brazil, there's a lot of physical show of affection, so holding hands, hugging, kissing, even in public. And this was a big shock for me, because in my culture, you don't show that much affection, especially in public. But even like couples holding hands when you're walking in shopping malls and in the parks. I see all the time here in Brazil, but I hardly see it in Sweden. And for me personally, the last time I held hands walking with someone was probably with my mum when I was like 3 years old. But it's not just the physical affection, but also expressing it. So saying how you feel about your wife, and calling them amor, my love, and things like that. So that's all expected here in Brazil. While in Sweden, like I said before, they're very reserved. People don't really talk that much about their emotions, including expressing their feelings and their love towards their partner. And this can be a big cultural clash. If you come from a similar culture to mine, Brazilian partner expects all this physical and verbal affection, while you're more reserved and don't like to talk about these things. And my only advice would be to try and change a bit. I mean, I'm managing to show a bit more affection, and also find some foreign friends who have Brazilian wives, and you guys can share your experiences and show that you're not the only one not doing this, and it is actually a cultural thing. Okay, and the fourth danger of marrying a Brazilian is the jealousy. So here in Brazil, jealousy is a big thing. It's probably a big thing in the whole of Latin America, maybe Central America as well. It applies to both men and women. And I was shocked how easy Brazilians can get jealous. Something can happen in stores and supermarkets or at work, and even mentioning that you find someone attractive on TV as well, even that can cause jealousy. And so you hear stories of women checking the social media accounts of their husbands, seeing what new friends they've added, which posts they like. And also I see a lot of adverts for private detectives here in Brazil as well. And I think a lot of the business they get is people wanting them to investigate their partner to see if they've been cheating. And I partly understand why there is this jealousy, because they do say that affairs and cheating here in Brazil do happen a fair bit. So I did Google it to see if the levels of adultery are higher here in Brazil compared to other countries. And what I found was that it said kind of that Thailand, Denmark, Germany have some of the highest rates of adultery and cheating, and Brazil isn't at the top. So that was a bit confusing. But yeah, I have other news stories like this saying that Brazil has the highest rate of affairs in the whole of South America. So the data is a bit confusing, but if I think about the friends and family that I know a few Brazilians who've got divorced because of affairs, and I can't think of anyone in Sweden that I know that got divorced because of affairs. So I would say that the level of affairs is pretty high here in Brazil, and so this causes this jealousy, and a lot of couples, they don't like their husband or their wife going out alone, and they always want to be with them. And this is not something that I've seen much in Sweden at all. And then the fifth danger of marrying a Brazilian wife is that you're not just marrying one person, you're marrying a whole family. And that's because Brazilians are very close to their family and their wider families as well, so uncles, aunts, and cousins. And so if you're living in Brazil, you're going to constantly have family members visiting you, and a lot of times they like to come unannounced or call up the last minute asking if they can come over. And another big thing they like to do is to have big family barbecues on Sundays. It's very common to have these barbecues every Sunday, especially in the south of Brazil, and then they invite the whole family over, and it lasts from lunchtime all the way to the evening. And having lots of family members and socializing with them is very nice, and it can get a bit too much and annoying, especially if you want to have some time to yourself, rather than constantly going to barbecues and family events. Okay, and another danger of marrying a Brazilian is to focus on appearance and doing lots of cosmetic and beauty treatments. So in general, Brazilian women are very focused on appearance. They like to spend a lot of money on clothes and makeup, and also going to the salon and getting their hair cut and pedicure and manicure and many other things. And then they like to do lots of other cosmetic and beauty treatments. And then also very focused on their teeth as well. So getting their teeth whitened and straightened. It's unbelievable how many Brazilian adults I see wearing braces. So that's not common at all to see in Sweden. And then finally you have plastic surgery as well. And some say that Brazil is the plastic surgery capital of the world. So you've got many Brazilian women doing Botox, facelifts, lip fillers, and then putting silicone in various places. And I think about the Brazilian women I know, I think the majority of them have had plastic surgery. And you can even get some plastic surgery on SUS, which is the Brazilian public health system. And so the government pays for Brazilians to have plastic surgery. Obviously, these procedures are limited, but it shows how important plastic surgery is in the Brazilian culture. And so if you're planning to marry a Brazilian, just get ready to spend a fair bit of money on these procedures. And then another danger of marrying a Brazilian is the cleanliness obsession. So a lot of Brazilians like to take 2 showers. And if you're European and you're used to taking 1 shower a day, some Europeans even take less than that. And you'll probably be called dirty and forced to take more showers. Also, Brazilians like to brush their teeth 3 times a day. Again, if you're from another culture, they'll probably say that your habits are gross. And try and increase the number of times you brush your teeth per day. And also finally, cleaning the house. So I mean, we Swedes are pretty relaxed about cleaning the house. We don't like a dirty house. But, you know, cleaning it once a week is probably enough. But here in Brazil, it is common to clean your house more often than that. And also the way they clean the house, they like to put a lot of water on the floor and then spray a bit of Veja, which is this cleaning liquid. And then they use a rodo, which is a squeegee, to remove the water. And I'm definitely not used to cleaning like that. I mean, in Sweden, we just vacuum and then use like a floor wipe or something. And so this focus on personal cleanliness and also the house can be a bit of a shock and also a bit annoying if you're not used to it. And then another danger of marrying a Brazilian is the lack of time management and planning. And so Brazilians in general, they like to do things last minute and not plan much. And then when they need to go to parties and so on, they like to arrive late. And this can cause a lot of problems and misunderstandings. Because in my culture, you kind of plan what you're doing weeks ahead. So if you want to meet friends, you kind of agree to meet weeks in advance. And then when you go to parties, you arrive on time or, slightly late, 15 minutes late or something. But here in Brazil, you can arrive like an hour or 2 hours late to a party. And this can cause some problems because you want to arrive on time to the party, while your partner probably hasn't even started getting ready when the party officially starts. And then also you never know what you're going to be doing at the weekends because you've got nothing planned. And then suddenly you get a phone call inviting you to a party or an event in the evening on that day. And so it can be very difficult to plan your days. And then finally, another danger of marrying a Brazilian is the food. And the chances are that if your Brazilian partner cooks, they're going to cook a lot of rice and beans for you. Now, I have no problems with eating rice and beans now and again, but a lot of Brazilians, they like to eat it every day. And this was something that shocked me, and I still haven't got used to it, and I don't think I ever will. Because I'm used to eating something different every day. I mean, the Swedes, we like to eat potatoes a lot, but we eat lots of pasta and rice as well. So we don't really repeat things that much. But there's a danger that your Brazilian partner will want to eat rice and beans day after day. And also they will want to eat their biggest meal at lunch rather than dinner. So none of this sandwiches or a quick meal at lunch. No, they want to have a proper sit-down meal at lunch, and then you can have a lighter snack at dinner. And so this is completely different to what I'm used to. In the beginning I didn't like it at all, but now I've actually got used to it, and it's probably healthier to eat more at lunch rather than dinner, and so you're not going to bed with a full stomach. And then also, I hope you like coffee, because your Brazilian partner is constantly making cafezinhos, small coffees, and they'll probably drink these many times per day. Even in summertime when it's super hot, they'll still want their small little hot coffee. And with these coffees, a lot of time they like to have a little sweet. And for many Brazilians, their favorite sweet is brigadeiros, which are these small balls made of condensed milk and chocolate. And they are super sweet. And I still haven't totally got used to them, and I still find them very, very sweet. But the chances are you're going to be eating a lot of those. Okay, so those were the dangers of marrying a Brazilian. Obviously, I'm generalizing here. Not all Brazilians do this. And also, there's a big difference between what Brazilian men do compared to Brazilian women. And also, I'm just mentioning kind of the negatives, if you can call them that, of marrying a Brazilian. But obviously, there are many, many positives. And I personally wouldn't want my Brazilian wife to change at all. So I hope you like this video. Please leave a like, subscribe. If you've got any comments, leave them in the comments section below. So thanks for watching. Until next time.